Hello 6th grade, and welcome to one of the first video sessions that you're going to have that you're going to need to work through and complete to make sure that you have all the skills you need for next year. So one of the first things that we're going to need to really have are all of the things from our string warm-ups 1, including the scales down at the bottom of the page. So there is another video for the general warm-up of just going up and down the D string. So please make sure that you're going through that and working with that warm-up. But today we're going to look at the scales down at the bottom, and we're going to focus on D and G to start with. So the scales at the bottom of your string warm-ups 1 are in a quarter note, eighth note pattern. So if you look very carefully at those, they start on the pitch of the scale, D, then they work their way up through the eighth notes to the higher pitch, in this case D. So I'm going to show you using my violin, and you can see you've got the alternate view there, and we're just going to go nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the basic of that scale. Now you go through that 2 times total. I'm going to demonstrate just that part. So we're going to go through the scale twice. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go through the arpeggio. So the arpeggio in this case is D, F sharp, A, and then high D, and then back down. So look carefully at that arpeggio. D, F, A, D, A, F, D. So very slowly, just 2, 3, 4. So that's the arpeggio. Now you do that twice as well. So let's try it with the metronome a little faster. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Now make sure that when you're doing all of this, you sit up nice and tall, you're using correct posture, and that you're getting a really good sound out of your instrument. All right, next up we have the G major scale. Now we've only learned 1 octave of this right now, so we're not going to be doing anything on the A string or E string yet. That's going to come after spring break. So what you're going to be working for is the G string and the D string. So you're going to start on your open G, just your G string, and then you're going to work your way up to G on your D string, and then back down. So here it is 1 time, just once up and once down. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. So you notice we went only up to G right there. One more time, once up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the scale goes through that twice. So we're going to try that now. You're going to go all the way up to G, then back down, then up, then back down again. 2, 3, and 4, and. So at this point, that should be pretty easy. If you can't get that, there are some settings on YouTube that let you slow this video down so you can play with that a little bit slower. Now the arpeggio, same thing as the D major arpeggio. You've got your open string, and then you're going to go to the third note of the scale, which in this case is B. So second finger for violins, violas, second finger, third finger for cello, first finger on the A string for basses, then your D string, open, and then G on your D string, or for the basses, open G. So very slowly, just in quarter notes, ready, and. So nice and easy. Now let's try it in the pattern that's written. So it's going to be G, B, D, G, D, B, G. One time through, slowly. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. All right, now we're going to go through 2 times. 3, 4, and. And now let's try it with tempo. 2, 3, 4. All right, so one of your assignments is later on in this quarter is going to be to play the 3 scales that are at the bottom of your page as written at 80 beats per minute, and that's what we've been using in this video. So you're about halfway there. What we're going to do right now is we're going to do the D major scale and arpeggio. Then we're going to take about 4 beats, and then we're going to do the G major scale and arpeggio. Again, just the first octave violins. We're not going all the way up yet. So here's D major. Just follow along. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Then again. Then the arpeggio. All right, now we're going to do the G major scale, just the first octave. And we're going to run it again, up and down twice, and then the arpeggio right after it. Here we go, G major. 2, 3, 4. Then again. Then the arpeggio. So you should feel pretty comfortable in both of those scales right now. If you don't, make sure you work on them, start slowly, and build it up to tempo. All right, now one of the next big skills you need to make sure that you have in your arsenal is the idea of slurs and hooks. So we're looking at page 28 in your Sound Innovations book. And you've got number 109, slurs and hooks on the D scale. So again, a slur is just when you move your bow and you keep your bow moving while your fingers change position. Here's the demonstration. So you see my bow is on the string. I play basically like a half note bow, and my fingers will then set onto the string as my bow keeps moving. So make sure that it is as smooth as possible. The only thing that we should hear is the change of note when you move your fingers. Now a hook bow is where you stop the bow, but the bow is going to travel in the same direction. So a hook bow, you move the bow twice in a down bow or twice in an up bow. So here's a down, down. And you see the bow stops between. And then here's an up, up. So that's a hook bow. Now in number 109, we have a combination of them. We get slur, slur, hook, hook, half note, slur, slur, hook, hook, half note. Okay? So we're going to use this tempo. Again, 80 beats per minute. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now one more time. Really make sure that it is as smooth as possible, that your fingers are the only thing that are moving, and that you're not doing alternate bows. There are a total of only 8 bows in this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now along with that slur idea, we have string crossing slurs. So we're looking at number 113. So the big thing with this is that you have to change level of the bow so you can change your strings while keeping the down bow or up bow. So one of the best exercises for this is just to do it in your warm-up. You just move the bow back and forth. So here's 113, again with our tempo of 80 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the big thing with that one is that you have to create that tunnel underneath your fingers. Especially cellists and bass, you got to get that finger up. So make sure that you're keeping a relaxed and straight wrist violin viola. We don't want to have pancake wrists. Keep your wrists relatively straight. Cello and bass, keep that finger curved, thumb on the back of the neck, and make sure that you can play the E, F sharp, and G while still hitting your A string. Alright, next big skill. We're looking at altering our fingers and using different fingers. So we're on page 30 and we're looking at finger rock, number 120. And we're talking about F sharp versus F natural. And then on the next page we'll be talking about C sharp versus C natural. So for the violins and violas, you have the biggest issue with this because you actually have to change your finger position. When you're playing an F sharp, your fingers are open. You have space between your first and second finger. When you're playing an F natural or C natural, your second finger has to come down next to your first. Your first finger does not move. It stays in the same position. So when we look at this on the instrument, okay, so we have our first finger, D to E, right? D to E. And our F sharp is here, and you can see there's space between my fingers. Now if I wanted to play an F natural, my first finger doesn't move. My second finger just comes down and meets it. So really make sure of that. Now cello, bass, you just have to use your second finger instead of your third or fourth for F sharp. So you're just using a different finger combination, but you really got to listen. So the first thing, a finger rock, you get D, D, and then you get an F natural, so fingers together, and then an F sharp. Okay? You're going to have that kind of Jaws thing. So make sure of that. Now we're going to put, our beat of 80 on again, and we're going to play through it together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So really check that finger spacing. Really make sure with cello bass that you get the correct finger and that it's in tune. And now we're going to play it with the Sound Innovations track. Ready? Next up is Ode to Joy, number 124, utilizing a C natural on the A string. So make sure that, again, we're using that low 2, violins, violas. Cellists, we're using the second finger on the A string. Bassists, make sure that A string, second finger as well. So here we go. Again, with our second finger, we're on the A string. It's right next to the first versus C sharp, which is spread out. So again, we're going to use our nice little slow track of 80. Here we go. 1, 2, Ode to Joy. So again, first, second endings, make sure that we're getting through that. Next up is our C major scale. So we're jumping over to number 127 and 128, which is page 32. This is level 3 sound musicianship. And we're talking about our C major scale utilizing that new F natural and C natural. Cello, viola, we're not going down to the C string just yet. We'll be doing that again after spring break. We're making sure that we have all of our scales in order right now. So 127 starts on the G string, third finger for the violins, violas, fourth finger for the cellists. Bassists, you'll be on A2. And we're going to work our way up using F natural and C natural. So we got a C, then we get D, E, F natural, G, so again, watch that space, A, B, and then C natural again, and then back down, C, B, A, G, F natural, E, D, C. Now the big thing, violin, viola, is you're probably going to drop down too far on the C, so really listen for that C to be nice and in tune. So here's number 127, again at 80 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. Then the arpeggio, number 128, you have C, so again on the G string. You have E, so first finger on D. You've got G, so violin, viola, cello, that'll be on your D string. Bass, that'll be on your G string. And then a C natural, again, that low 2 or second finger. Basses, we're going to shift slightly to get a C natural, not a C sharp. And then back down G, E, and C. Really listen for that C to be in tune. Here we go. Give you 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. Now, along with this, we're getting dynamics and we're getting new little things. So if you look at the top of page 32, make sure you look through all of those terms. C major key signature, meaning the key signature has nothing in it. Everything is natural. You have the dynamics, which are changes in volume. Mezzo, forte, forte, and piano. Mezzo, forte, meaning medium, mezzo, forte, loud. Forte meaning loud, and piano meaning soft. Now that is accomplished by multiple ways, but the easiest way is to change the bowing lane. So you can see on my instrument, the bowing lane here, next to the bridge, is your forte lane. Okay? In the middle is your mezzo forte, and then near the fingerboard is your piano. If I take just an open D string, that's a piano. Now that was at the first bowing lane, light bow and fast bow. When I move my bowing lane to the middle, I now have to apply more pressure. It also gets louder. When I move closer to the bridge, I have to apply more pressure, and I also have to slow down my bow a little bit. And it gets even louder. So you're really having to change your placement of the bow along with how much pressure you're putting into the bow. And then you have to think about speed. Play around with each of those bowing lanes with your warm-ups, with these exercises, with scales, and see if you can't get the most beautiful sound you can. You don't want to have this when you're at the first bowing lane. That's too much pressure. And you don't want to have this. That's too little pressure at the 5th bowing lane or the forte lane. All right, so next up is number 130, Sakura. So it's referring to spring and the cherry blossoms in Japan. And we're going to be using different dynamic levels. So the first dynamic level being piano. We've also got some C naturals in there. Watch out for the key signature. And we're using the A, D, and some G string. So make sure that you're really looking at that. So we start with piano for 4 measures. So bowing lane 1, light, soft. And then we are going to go to a mezzo forte, medium loud. And then we're going to go to a piano. Not too fast. Get set. 2, soft, and. So you notice that my bow had to change positions based off of piano or mezzo forte. Make sure that you're doing the same. All right, and we come finally to the surprise symphony, number 133. Franz Joseph Haydn, 1732 to 1809, and in the classical period. So we've got a lot of things going on here. First off, rehearsal marks are now being introduced. You'll see these in other pieces. It's just a way that we can know where we are, can get back together. So we've got rehearsal mark at 5, at 9, and at 13. Nice box around that. Next up, we're in the key of C. So again, using F naturals and C naturals. We start off with a piano, soft sound. We're using staccato, so short and separated bows. And then in measure 8, you can see that we go to forte right after a rest, and then right back to piano with some slurs, some hooks, and some other things like that. So this piece is going to take all of those skills that we just talked about and put them into one thing. Make sure that you can do everything else before this, before you come to 133. If you can't do slurs, you need to practice slurs. If you can't do staccatos or hook bows, you need to practice those. Once you have those things mastered, come to this idea. Okay? So the other little things to watch out for, you've got a change in style. Like we said, you had slurs and a lot more legato or smooth bow.